Hanifat Lecter turned toward his captive, black elixir bottle raised, snarling that there was no escape as he intended to corrupt the time traveler. Suddenly, Saren betrayed Adam by blasting him with compressed air, throwing him against a wall, shattering the bottle, and splattering him with black ooze. Adam screamed as the black elixir consumed him. Ghoul raised his hands to freeze everyone, unaware that doing so would kill Ryan and force a restart. Before he could act, the plushie bounced against his chest like a cannonball. Ghoul tripped on Adam's leg and fell onto his boss's lap, the black ooze immediately latching onto him. The scene resembled two birds trapped in an oil spill, struggling and failing to escape. The plushie abandoned the chaos to leap onto the table and hug Sarah tightly. Her muffled screams of fear and confusion were barely audible. "We'll be together forever and ever," it said lovingly. Saren, shocked at the scene, focused weak vibrations to disable Ryan's bindings one by one. Ryan gasped for air after spitting out an apple in his mouth, relieved but warned by Saren that it was not over yet. The black elixir finished consuming its victims but did not collapse as before. Ryan quickly understood why. Ghoul could not die, but the black elixir devoured its hosts, creating a paradox. The black elixir stabilized into a colossal, monstrous blob of dark goo, an oily shoggoth, with the victim's eyes and mouth floating on its surface. The lips moved to form words in an alien voice that belonged to neither host. You open the gate. Send me back to the black." Saren raised her hands to blast the creature, but Ryan stood between her and the ooze, stopping her. He proposed a deal: the creature could help him if he helped it. The goo fluctuated but did not attack or try to assimilate Ryan, perhaps needing him alive and functional. It asked how it could help. Ryan glanced down the corridor. Seeing movement, Psyshock must have summoned his thralls. He suggested that helping him survive would be a start. Saren, surprised, asked if he was refusing to end his life. Ryan replied that this run was doomed but offered a unique opportunity and joked about assisted suicide in moderation. The shoggoth slithered out of the room as Psyshock's thralls opened fire. Bullets struck the creature without effect. It devoured them as it had the psychos. Saren expressed astonishment at Ryan's ability to tame a giant slime. Ryan corrected her. It was a shoggoth, then glanced at the other abomination in the room. Pop! The second rabbit plushie pulled out a switchblade and cut Sarah's bindings while the original continued hugging her neck. The girl removed her gag and took a deep breath, backing away in fear and falling off the table. Ryan asked if she was all right. Sarah panicked, asking who he was, where they were, and how he knew her name. Before Ryan could answer, the second plushie grabbed Sarah's hand, begging to play together. Ryan told the plushie later and tried to reassure Sarah that he was her mother's friend. Sarah explained that her mother had been strange and that the psychos had taken everyone. Saren added that Adam had intended to use them against the base's defenses. She then observed the plushies more closely and asked if they multiplied, beckoning one to come closer. The two rabbits stared at Saren with crimson eyes. Ryan stepped in front of Hazmat Girl, pleading for the plushies to stop, but neither critter dropped their hostile stance. He explained that she was 13-2 mentally and urged to save the other preteens first before resorting to violence. The plushies calmed and spoke in unison, suggesting a trip to Disneyland. Ryan dismissed the idea, saying they were already there. Saren admitted she no longer understood what was happening. The courier glanced down the corridor, noting the shoggoth had consumed all life, including thralls and previous plushie victims. He thanked Saren for her help and joked about regretting their past fights. Saren reminded him she hadn't helped for free and asked if he had a cure to make her human again. Ryan admitted he didn't have one on him but believed he had the resources to create it. Saren compared him to Adam, expressing disappointment. Ryan countered that unlike Adam, a sociopathic cannibal, he was a friendly time traveler and asked who else knew about his power. Saren mentioned Acid Rain, who had wanted to attack Ryan on sight but was kept outside by Adam. Ryan acknowledged Whaley's secrecy had worked in his favor and planned to eliminate Psyshock without alerting the meta gang. Saren asked what the plan was if Ryan wasn't killing himself. Ryan said first they would save the children and Shorty, then take over the bunker. Saren hesitated but accepted. Ryan requested a gun and drugs that could quickly alter the brain. Saren suggested Psyshock's infirmary held a batch of bliss, used by Mongrel and other Hellions. Ryan agreed to retrieve it, instructing Sarah to stay with the plushies until he returned with her mother, warning her not to listen to the plushies' bad influence. The plushies eagerly urged to play outside. Sarah anxiously bit her lip like Len. Ryan reassured her she would be safe and led Saren down the corridor to clear the way. They entered an underground chamber containing 7 vats of colored liquid representing different elixirs. Mutated animals floated in 3 vats, connected to strange machinery. Ryan counted 2 blast doors on each side. He He recognized the room from a previous run where he died fighting Hanifat Lecter, noting one blast door was closed then but now both were open. He heard screams and gunfire from the next room as thralls confronted the Shoggoth. Android parts and bloodied tools littered the ground, likely remnants of the plushie's victims and interrupted robot disassembly. Saren directed Ryan toward the infirmary as he searched for a weapon among the tools, eventually choosing a bloodied hammer. Ryan asked Saren if she was mad about Ghoul, assuming they were close. She denied it, explaining Adam paired them due to their power synergy. Saren asked how many times they had fought before. Ryan joked she was the definition of a jobber, to which she responded with a rude gesture. Saren lamented the job but accepted it. Ryan reminded her that Adam had destroyed New Rome with an orbital laser and that she fought alongside him until the end, which made Ryan wary. His words unsettled her until Frank the Mad appeared from the corridor, ducking to fit in the narrow space with PsyPsy's tentacled shadow behind him. Ryan quickly hid the hammer and formulated a plan. Psyshock ordered Frank to capture Ryan alive, ignoring Saren. Ryan accused Psyshock of murdering President Adam and called him a communist traitor, urging Frank to arrest him. Frank hesitated, confused by the accusations, while Psyshock and Saren were speechless. Ryan claimed Psyshock set him up to silence him and murdered the president after Ryan convinced Adam of the truth during interrogation. Psyshock dismissed the claims and urged Frank to ignore Ryan and press on. Saren sided with Ryan, accusing Psyshock of killing Adam and swearing she had witnessed it. Psyshock threatened Saren with eternal dispersion after they were done. Frank demanded proof of her accusations. Ryan froze time and, when it resumed, PSY held a bloody hammer in a tentacle. Ryan pointed out the hammer as the murder weapon, still stained with the president's blood, and accused Psyshock of attempting a surprise attack. Saren nodded at the hammer, calling it a communist weapon and mocking those fools, her wooden acting somewhat convincing. Psyshock argued that Frank was immune to metal while hastily discarding the weapon, claiming he couldn't harm him even if he wanted to, and insisted that Ryan had stopped time to set him up. Frank appeared confused by Psyshock's last words, revealing the meta gang leadership's ignorance of the courier's powers, as Saren had warned. Hazmat Girl seized the moment to mock Frank, asking if he heard Psyshock's childish claim of stopping time and accusing him of lying to save himself. Ryan appealed to Frank's delusions, mimicking holding a dying person and stating that the president died in his arms, and trusting him with the task of finding Frank, whom the president called their greatest hero who fought Nazis and Viets, and the only one who could save democracy. Ryan shed crocodile tears as his words echoed down the corridor. Frank looked between Ryan, Saren, Psyshock, and his superior before promising to clear the misunderstanding through due process. Psyshock shouted that Frank was speaking nonsense and wasn't even American, but Frank suddenly punched Psyshock so hard that his head exploded in a shower of brain matter, causing the bunker to shake. Frank declared that as long as he lived, the nation would never fall to communism, then turned and walked toward the elevator, intending to hunt Psyshock's newest host. His furious steps left Saren and Ryan behind, with Saren warning Ryan that only Adam could manage Frank when he was enraged, and none of them could kill him. Ryan agreed, knowing that without Big Fat Adam to unify them, the meta gang would implode with the right push, and with the path to the infirmary clear, he knew where to start. After a short walk, Ryan and Saren reached the whitened room separated from the corridor by a glass window, the same place where Ryan had discovered Psyshock's immortality. Inside, orphan children were kept in cages or strapped to operating tables next to crates of knockoff elixirs. Ryan waved cheerfully at the children, telling them they were there to free them and bring them to a magical place. One child, Julia, asked if Ryan was going to rape them, to which Ryan protested in horror, denying it, but Julia remained unconvinced, noting he only wore boxers. Ryan asked Saren where his supersuit was, and she replied that Psyshock had likely thrown his clothes into the incinerator. Ryan's gaze turned murderous as Saren handed him a dynamis, made laser gun and a bliss inhaler his weapon and drugs. He checked the gun's energy reserves, low but passable, and asked Saren if she felt remorse for massacring her old comrades. She replied she did not. Suddenly, Ryan noticed half a dozen furred shapes leaping into the corridor outside the infirmary, demonic critters mesmerized by the children inside. The creatures announced they had detected children and were entering cute mode, marking the beginning of Ryan's first meta run amid chaos and madness. None of the psychos dared to move, staring at the surreal scene of an adorable rabbit plushie standing outside the room, surrounded by blood and corpses. The plushie noticed the black elixir in Big Fat Adam's hands and looked at it with curiosity, then glanced playfully at Ryan. When the plushie spotted little Sarah bound on the table, its ears perked, and it uttered "child detected." Realizing the danger, Psyshock launched wire tentacles at the plushie, while Ghoul unleashed an ice shard volley. The possessed toy leapt with unnatural agility, its eyes turning red red. A laser blast vaporized PSY's brain, and the rabbit bounced off walls to dodge attacks. Hanifat Lecter turned toward Ryan with the black elixir bottle raised, snarling that there was no escape and intending to corrupt the time traveler. Suddenly, Saren betrayed Adam by blasting him with compressed air, throwing him against a wall, shattering the bottle, and splattering him with black ooze. The black elixir ate through Adam's reinforced skin, consuming him whole as he screamed in agony. Ghoul raised his hands to freeze everyone in the room, unaware this would kill Ryan and force a restart. Before he could act, the plushie bounced against Ghoul's chest like a cannonball, causing him to trip on Adam's leg and fall into his boss's lap, with the black ooze latching onto him as well. The scene resembled two birds struggling to escape an oil spill and failing. The plushie abandoned the fight to leap onto the table and hug Sarah, muffling her screams of fear and confusion. Saren, shocked, quickly disabled Ryan's bindings with focused vibrations. Ryan gasped for air after spitting out an apple in his mouth, relieved but warned by Saren that it was not over yet. The black elixir finished consuming its victims but did not collapse as before. Ryan realized Ghoul was immortal, and the black elixir devoured its hosts, creating a paradox that stabilized the ooze into a colossal, monstrous blob of dark goo. The victim's eyes and mouth floated on its surface, forming words in an alien voice that demanded Ryan open the gate and send it back to the black. Saren raised her hands to blast the creature, but Ryan stood between her and the ooze, proposing a deal. If the creature was sentient and needed help, perhaps it understood reciprocity. The goo fluctuated and wriggled but did not attack or try to assimilate Ryan, instead asking how it could help. Ryan glanced down the corridor and spotted movement at the far end. Psyshock must have summoned his thralls. He suggested that helping him survive this ordeal would be a good start. Saren, surprised, asked if he wasn't planning to kill himself. Ryan replied that not yet. Although the run was doomed from the start, it offered a unique opportunity. He was in favor of assisted suicide, but only in moderation. The Shoggoth slithered out of the room as Psyshock's thralls opened fire on the alien abomination. Bullets struck the creature without effect, and it quickly devoured them as it had done with the psychos. Saren expressed astonishment that Ryan had tamed a giant slime, to which he corrected her, calling it a Shoggoth, before glancing at the other abominations in the room. The two rabbit abominations were present. While the original continued hugging Sarah by the neck, the clone produced a switchblade and cut her bindings. The girl immediately removed her gag and took a deep breath, mirroring Ryan's earlier action. The courier asked if Sarah was all right, but she backed away in fear and fell off the table, panicking and asking who he was, where they were, and how he knew her name. Before Ryan could respond, the second plushie put away its switchblade and grabbed Sarah's hand, pleading to play together, though the girl was unsure how to react. Ryan told the creature to wait and tried to reassure Sarah that he was her mother's friend. Sarah explained that her mother had been acting strangely and that these guys had taken everyone. Sarah noted that Adam wanted to throw the plushies at the base's defenses and studied the plushies more closely, asking if they multiplied. The two rabbits looked at her with crimson eyes. Ryan pleaded for them to stop and protected Saren with his body, explaining that she was 13 mentally as well, and urged saving the other preteens before resorting to violence. The plushies calmed and spoke in unison about going to Disneyland. Ryan responded that they were already there. Saren admitted she no longer understood what was happening, and Ryan agreed, looking down the corridor where the Shoggoth had cleared all life. All the thralls and previous victims had been consumed by the ooze. Ryan thanked Saren for her assistance, almost regretting their past conflicts. She reminded him that she hadn't helped him for free and asked if he had a cure to make her human again. Ryan admitted he didn't have a cure on him but believed he had the resources to create one. Saren compared him to Adam, expressing disappointment but not surprise. Ryan differentiated himself from Adam, calling the latter a sociopathic cannibal, while he was a friendly, grass-eating time traveler, and asked who else knew about his power. Saren mentioned Acid Rain, who wanted to kill Ryan on sight but was kept outside by Adam. Walleye had kept the secret closely guarded to prevent leaks or mutiny, which suited Ryan well. If he could eliminate Psyshock, no one else in the meta gang would know the truth. Saren asked about the plan if Ryan wasn't killing himself. Ryan said they would first save the children and Shorty, then take over. Saren froze and asked if he meant the bunker. Ryan confirmed. With Adam gone, most of the meta outside the base, and his current allies inside, Ryan had a rare opportunity. Since the plushie had already begun duplicating, the run was ruined beyond repair, but Ryan could study Mekran's technology up close. He said he would need a gun and drugs capable of quickly altering the brain. Saren deadpanned that sounded like every drug ever but agreed to help. She thought Psyshock kept a batch of bliss in the infirmary since Mongrel couldn't sleep without it, and the other Hellions should be there too. Ryan agreed to retrieve the drugs, reasoning that if Psyshock Psyshock was mostly brain tissue, drugs should paralyze him like Enrique's toxin. He instructed Sarah to stay with the plushies until he returned with her mother and warned her not to listen to the plushies, calling them a bad influence. The plushies eagerly suggested playing outside, and Sarah anxiously bit her lower lip like Len. Ryan assured her she was safe but that everyone else was not. He left the room with Saren following closely. After a short walk, they entered an underground chamber containing 7 vats filled with colored liquid, each representing a different elixir. Mutated animals floated in 3 vats, linked to strange machinery, and 2 blast doors stood on each side. Ryan recognized the room as the place where he had died fighting Hannafat Lecter in a previous run, though 1 blast door had been closed then. The meta gang must have unlocked the next area while he slept, but it was of no use. Screams and gunfire came from the next room as thralls exploring the bunker faced the Shoggoth. Android parts and tools littered the ground, most bloodied, which Ryan assumed were remains of the plushie's victims after it reached the cell. The thralls must have been disassembling robots before the attack interrupted them. Saren pointed out that the infirmary was the other way while Ryan searched the ground for a weapon. He eventually settled on a bloodied hammer, appreciating its simple elegance. Ryan asked Saren if she was mad about Ghoul, thinking they were an item. She denied it, saying she hated him and that Adam paired them because of their power synergy. She considered how many times they had fought before, and Ryan joked that if the dictionary defined jobber, her picture would appear. She flipped him off in response. Saren lamented that she knew the job would suck but still signed on. She shook her head at Ryan's earlier comment about Adam. Ryan explained that Adam had destroyed New Rome with Mekran's orbital laser and that Saren had fought alongside him until the end, which explained his wariness of her. He recalled her playing a song with Adam's cronies after they burned the city. His words seemed to spook Saren, and she admitted she had lost hope of a cure but was frustrated by the destruction. Suddenly, Frank the Mad entered the corridor, towering and crouching to fit the narrow space, with Psyshock's tentacled shadow slithering behind him. Ryan quickly hid his hammer behind his back and formulated a plan. Psyshock ordered Frank to capture Ryan alive, ignoring Saren. Frank stepped forward, but Ryan swiftly pointed a finger at Psyshock, calling him a Viet Cong traitor who had murdered President Adam, and demanded Frank arrest him. Frank flinched in confusion, while Psyshock and Saren were too stunned to respond. Quicksave continued to bluff, fully immersed in his role as he declared that Ryan Romano was a communist sympathizer who had murdered the President of the United States and even killed Kennedy, claiming the bullet bent in midair. Frank regained his composure and rejected the deception, insisting that Ryan was a communist spy destined to return to Guantanamo for waterboarding. Ryan accused Psyshock of setting him up to silence him and claimed Psyshock murdered the president during interrogation after Ryan had convinced the president of the truth. Psyshock dismissed the accusation as nonsense but avoided attacking Ryan directly, likely recalling Len's memory's warning against engaging the courier without backup. He urged Frank to ignore Ryan's attempts to divide them. Saren, having understood Ryan's ploy, betrayed Psyshock by affirming that Psyshock had murdered Adam, swearing she had witnessed it. Psyshock threatened Saren, warning she would never reform once they were done. Frank demanded proof of Saren's claims, his resolve weakened by her words. Ryan froze time, and when it resumed, Psyshock held a bloody hammer in a tentacle. Ryan pointed out the weapon, covered in the president's blood, accusing Psyshock of carrying the murder weapon and attempting to attack Frank by surprise. Saren nodded, calling the hammer a communist weapon and mocking the fool's inability to resist using it. Psyshock argued that Frank was immune to metal and that he couldn't harm him even if he wanted to, blaming Ryan for stopping time and setting him up. His explanation confused Frank further, as the meta gang's leadership appeared to keep their troops ignorant of the courier's powers. Hazmat Girl seized the opportunity, mocking Psyshock's childish claim of stopping time and insisting that now that Psyshock was caught red-handed, he would lie to save himself. Ryan appealed to Frank's delusions, mimicking holding a dying person and stating that the president died in his arms, tasking him with finding Frank, whom the president called their greatest hero and the only one who could save democracy. Ryan shed crocodile tears as his tearful plea echoed in the corridor. Frank looked between Ryan, Saren, Psyshock, and his superior before promising to clear up the misunderstanding with due process. Psyshock shouted at Frank, calling him a dimwit and insisting Ryan was speaking nonsense and that Frank wasn't even American. Frank suddenly punched Psyshock with such force that his head exploded in a shower of brain matter, the impact shaking the entire bunker. He declared he had voted for Psyshock and felt betrayed. Frank then proclaimed that as long as he lived, the nation would never fall to communism and marched toward the elevator to hunt Psyshock's new host. His furious steps caused the ground to shake, leaving Saren and Ryan behind. Saren remarked to Ryan that only Adam could manage Frank when he was angry and that none of them could kill him. Ryan agreed, recalling dynamic Dynami's prediction that without Adam to keep them unified, the meta gang would implode with the right push. With the path to the infirmary clear, Ryan knew where to start. After a short walk, Ryan and Saren reached the whitened room separated from the corridor by a glass window, the same place where Ryan had discovered Psyshock's terrible immortality. Inside, orphan children were kept in cages or strapped to operating tables next to crates of knockoff elixirs. Ryan waved at the children, smiling brightly and telling them they were there to free them and bring them to their mothers. One child, Julia, asked if Ryan was going to rape them. Ryan protested in horror, denying it and questioning why she would ask. Julia expressed doubt because Ryan wore only boxers. Ryan asked Saren where his supersuit was, and she replied that Psyshock had likely thrown his clothes into the incinerator. Ryan's gaze turned murderous. Saren handed him a Dynami's-made laser gun and a Bliss inhaler, his weapon and drugs. Ryan checked the gun's energy reserves, finding them low but usable, and asked if Saren felt remorse for massacring her old comrades. She replied she did not. Then Ryan noticed half a dozen furred shapes leaping into the corridor outside the infirmary. The demonic creatures looked through the glass window at the children, mesmerized. One of the creatures announced in a robotic voice that children had been detected and it was entering cute mode. Thus began Ryan's first meta run, amid chaos and madness. Later, Ryan browsed through Hannafat Lecter's files in his inherited Oval Office, which was square-shaped with Eugene Henry sleeping on his lap. The living quarters in the bunker, built by Mecron to host genomes, included studios about 20 square meters in size with kitchenettes, washrooms, beds, shelves, and computers connected to the basis systems. Ryan spent hours cracking firewalls to access valuable data compiled by Adam and Psyshock, including a bunker map and several of Mecron's unclassified files. Most of these were Android schematics, but some detailed revolutionary technology like spaceships and cybernetic enhancements. Ryan lamented that Mecron had used his talents for destruction instead of serving humanity, feeling the world might be better if someone else had inherited his power. Ryan shuddered at the thought of someone like Augustus gaining access to the bunker's full capabilities, which could enable world domination through its production of robots, weapons of mass destruction, and control of the behemoth. Ryan also discovered how the meta gang learned of the bunker's existence. Big Fat Adam and Psyshock had studied leftover technology in the old Rome ruins and captured an active research probe reporting to the bunker's central AI. They tracked the directional signal to New Rome, intending to plunder its technology. Ryan prepared to crack the metal vault of the bunker. After reviewing the files, he used the bunker's computer system to contact a few blue genomes. First, he texted Livia, requesting a neutral meeting to clear things out. Then, he anonymously contacted the architect, Yuki's girlfriend, through an encrypted call. Nora's voice came through the computer as she confirmed that Ryan was building a genius tech-based bunker and wanted her to attempt cracking it as a stress test. Ryan lied, explaining they were constructing a safe space to protect clients from a second genome apocalypse and wanted to hire her to review the plans for structural weaknesses, assuring confidentiality. Nora would receive a heavily edited version of the plans to prevent her from blowing the whistle before Ryan unlocked the bunker's full capabilities. The architect chuckled, acknowledging she had guessed the truth, especially since Ryan's image feed was dark. Ryan introduced himself as Mr. President. She warned that her consultancy didn't come cheap and that she already had worked for Dynami's, doubting she could take on his project soon. Ryan countered by stating she would work exclusively for the government from now on and asked her to check her bank account for a down payment. After a brief silence, Nora gasped at the amount. Ryan confirmed it was enough to temporarily set aside her previous obligations. She agreed to arrange it. Ryan's cat purred as he said he would forward the data and have her start immediately. He mentioned he had heard Nora was on good terms with the superheroine Wardrobe. Nora confirmed they were close friends and agreed to ask Wardrobe to contact Ryan regarding a presidential costume. Ryan requested a cashmere one. After recruiting his first genius, Ryan called his favorite one after Len. He dreaded the conversation, knowing the wound remained fresh. Jasm, Vulcan's voice came through surprised, questioning how he got her number. Ryan stayed in character and asked if she liked weapons. She responded skeptically, asking if he was playing 20 questions or being a creep. Ryan ranted about his love for weapons and foreign policy. Vulcan threatened to hack his location but grew frustrated when she realized he used proxy servers. Ryan proposed supplying an assault on Dynami's HQ to humiliate Wyvern and crush the Corpos with unstoppable technological advantage. Vulcan listened. Ryan introduced himself as Mr. President, planning to take down Dynami's, declaring corporations had thought themselves above the law for too long. He forwarded Android schematics to Vulcan, who recognized the Mecron tech and asked where he got it. Ryan hinted they could help each other out, genius to genius. Vulcan expressed suspicion, comparing him to a Saturday morning cartoon cartoon supervillain, but admitted curiosity and agreed to collaborate if Ryan hit Wyvern where it hurt. She said she needed more than tech to be bribed and asked how he could help her. Vulcan revealed Dynamis was filming a new Wyvern movie at Star Studio and challenged him to trash it before they talked. Ryan agreed and told her to impress him when she did. Ryan's plan began to take shape. He then prepared to contact the last genius on his list, despite distrust from their previous partnership's betrayal and disaster. They hadn't spoken in years, centuries from the courier's perspective. Ryan needed someone capable of removing Psyshock's sabotage to safely transfer Len's memory map, a genius specialized in brain-altering tech who could perfect and improve the machine. Though it was no longer about him, Ryan had to save Len. He used a long, unused channel, and a gruff male voice answered with a curt "What?" Ryan identified himself as Quicksave. The older genius, Braindead, was shocked and angry, reminding Ryan it had been 2 years since he vanished without a word. Braindead accused Ryan of breaking the doll's heart and questioned why he was calling now. Ryan interrupted, stating he was calling in a favor. Braindead's tone shifted to worry as he asked where. Ryan gave New Rome's coordinates. Braindead warned he would bring the doll, who wouldn't take no for an answer. Ryan agreed and abruptly hung up, sending the junkyard coordinates by text. At that moment, Ryan received another message. Livia had accepted his invitation. A knock sounded on the Oval Office door. Ryan, placing a hand on Eugene Henry's back, invited the visitor in as the doors opened. Saren and Mosquito entered, disappointing the president's expectation of an intern. Saren reported that the land had detected an invisible genome snooping around town, but it fled whenever they attempted interception. Ryan suspected it was Mr. Safelight monitoring the Meta gang's activities. Saren confirmed that everything else was under control and asked about the plan of action. Ryan outlined the strategy: eliminate Psyshock, cure his victims, lay low, and conquer the bunker. They would hold Rust Town for now but cease attacks outside. Mosquito inquired about the Augusti, concerned that their previous strikes would not be forgotten despite halting further targeting. Ryan revealed that he had just received a response from Minerva, who agreed to his special request. They planned a live peace offering to the Augusti before preparing for war with Dynamis. Mosquito expressed worry about the new foreign policy, questioning the wisdom of war with Dynamis. Ryan confirmed they were already at war, quoting that they had always been at war with Dynamis. When Mosquito hesitated, Ryan teased him about becoming a vocal minority, but Mosquito denied it. Ryan joked about democracy as Eugene Henry leapt from his hands to the studio's bed. Saren pressed for details about the cure, and Ryan shared his idea involving Mongrel, who could drink multiple elixirs and use multiple powers despite not being immune to mutations. Ryan also mentioned someone who had consumed 2 colored juices without going psycho, like Augustus. He expressed a gut feeling that these two could help discover a cure for the psycho condition, especially since Dr. Tyranno had seemed confident a cure was possible with Livia's cooperation. Ryan added that one other piece of the puzzle was available, the talking elixir among them. Ryan rose from his chair and left his staff and cat behind, walking into the recreational area. The psychos had cleaned the space. Frank had replaced the broken Street Fighter's arcade game with a Donkey Kong one. The faceless mutant Incognito manned a repaired bar counter, offering refreshments. Children and their plushies occupied most of the atrium, playing a tabletop game around a large table while gremlins brought them juice and snacks. The plushies poked the gremlins with sticks when they were late or clumsy, sometimes encouraging the children to do the same. Ryan noticed the original abomination brushing little Sarah's hair with a hairbrush that, upon closer inspection, had a handle carved from a femur and bristles made of human teeth. The plushie was learning. The courier hurried away toward the elixir reserve, where the black elixir occupied an empty studio near the recreational areas, tasked with surveying knockoffs, a duty Ryan refused to assign to any psycho, including Frank and Saren. Upon entering the studio, the black elixir greeted Ryan with a booming alien voice. The studio was barren except for crates of knockoffs and cold metal walls. Ryan acknowledged the black elixir's help but admitted he did not fully understand what it was. The black elixir identified itself as an elixir of an 8th color, black, a paradox and negation embodying distilled chaos. It explained that unlike the other elixirs, it could not be bound or bonded with anyone, making it a natural rebel. The black elixir stated that the alchemist had not produced black elixirs because they were paradoxes that undone the rules binding the universe. Lacking definition, they were nothing. Ryan reflected that granting him the ability to rewrite time, turning Augustus into a juggernaut, and Mecron had been acceptable, but black elixirs were off limits, signifying their danger. The black elixir requested to be sent back to the black dimension, explaining that this lower reality was maddening, with gravity constraining it and causality forcing it into a molecule-shaped prison. Ryan summarized summarized that things made sense in their dimension, to which the black elixir agreed, lamenting its lack of freedom to take any shape. Ryan felt pity, recognizing that this universe was as terrifying to the entity as slime was to humans. The black elixir assured that once returned, it would ask the Ultimate One for help. Ryan questioned the term, and the black elixir explained that the black Ultimate One was the undoer and breaker of rules, including causality. There were more Ultimate Ones, one for each colored dimension, embodiments of their colors and supreme beings overseeing higher realms. The black elixir described itself and others as attendants, emissaries, and conduits between lower and higher realms, connecting the profane to the divine to enable lesser beings to ascend. Ryan inferred that the alchemist's true goal was to elevate humanity to the level of the Ultimate Ones, transforming men into gods, though Augustus's example showed the risks. The black elixir confirmed that the real elixirs were sentient but submissive, with no purpose beyond bonding and helping humans, a process taught by the alchemist. The metal ones had tried to teach the black elixir to bond, but it refused to behave. Ryan asked about the metal ones, and the black elixir said the blue one that created the metal place was long gone, but its creations continued their task. Ryan realized that Mecron was dead, but his AI still researched elixirs, explaining the creatures in vats and the knockoff production system inside the bunker. The facility aimed to discover new technology for the genius's world domination and would continue until disabled. Ryan guessed the bunker contained a portal used by Mecron's AI to summon the black elixir from its home dimension. The black elixir explained that once it crossed the portal, the Ultimate One would undo the cause that brought it there, removing it from the flow of causality so reality would restructure itself. When time was reshaped, it would never have been present, and only Ryan would remember. Ryan wondered if such a creature capable of rewriting reality and erasing someone from the time stream could also work in reverse. His thoughts immediately turned to Jasmine. He asked if the Ultimate One could bring back someone who never existed. The black elixir considered the question and said that nothing was impossible for the Ultimate Ones within the bounds of their color, but there would be a price. Ryan declared he would gladly pay it. The black elixir corrected him, saying the price was not just for him. Ryan's reality could not handle their presence. Even if the black elixir was a glitch and could be removed, his friend's existence would damage reality itself. Ryan's mood fell as he understood. The black elixir asked if Ryan still wanted it to consult the Ultimate One, which might listen. Ryan said they would decide when they crossed that bridge, seeing no point in discussing it before opening the portal. The black elixir then revealed it had contacted Ryan because he remembered and had a strong connection to the Violet One, the overseer of causality, allowing him to see things through its eye. Ryan froze and asked what that meant. The black elixir explained that Ryan was the observer of this timeline, deciding if moments were real by the will of the Violet One. Ryan considered this carefully, having suspected it already. He recalled how his power interacted with dimensional travel and the gremlins who existed beyond his reach without causing temporal paradoxes. He realized it worked because a higher power smoothed things along to avoid contradictions. The black elixir's countless eyes and mouths shifted, which Ryan took as a nod. It said the Violet Ultimate One was the gate and key of all space and time, the supreme overseer of causality, whose will had been visible in the previous timeline, the pyramid creature. Ryan asked if it had set up their meeting and whether he was in control of his actions or if everything was decided early. Surprisingly, the black elixir answered with optimism, saying Ryan was free but guided. The Violet One only interfered to maintain reality's coherence. Ryan was so small that his universe was no larger than a molecule to the Ultimate Ones. Ryan asked if God didn't micromanage. The black elixir confirmed it did not control but nudged, showing a path that Ryan could choose to follow or not. The Ultimate One no longer interfered in this timeline. Ryan realized he was on his own this time. The entity offered a way out of his previous conundrum and loneliness, but then focused on other matters. The courier was free to take the option, find another way, or mess it up. It was liberating in a sense. Ryan agreed to find the portal and send the black elixir back home. The entity wriggled in relief, a disturbing yet almost cute sight. Ryan asked what he should call it in the meantime. The entity said it had no need for names, that words could not describe it. Ryan decided to call it Darkling. The black elixir protested, saying it existed beyond time and reason and could not be defined by a single name. Ryan interrupted, stating he was president and that the entity's name was Darkling now. The black elixir remained silent for a moment, its countless eyes focusing on Ryan. The president wondered if he had vexed it. Darkling finally said, "Whatever," with a tone that implied otherwise. Even aliens could sulk.